Good morning. Now I invited Dr. Dilip Kuralkar, Principal, SB Khade College, Koparde, Kolhapur. And he is the President of Sahyadri Botanical Society, Kolhapur. Dr. Kuralkar is a mangrove ecologist and he has served his expertise in mangrove ecosystem. On behalf of organizing committee, I request him for his keynote address for today's conference.
Good morning, everybody. On the occasion of World Earth Day, as well as International Conference on Climate Change, Mangroves, and Sustainable Management, organized by Pancham Khemraj College, Sawantwadi, in association with Mumbai University, Mumbai, Mangrove Society of India, as well as Sahyadri Botanical Society, Kolhapur. On the behalf of Sahyadri Botanical Society, Kolhapur, myself, Principal Dr. Dilip Kuralkar, welcome all of you. So I welcome the chief guest of this conference for the inauguration, Dr. Sanjay Jagtap, Joint Director, Konkan Region, Maharashtra, as well as the principal of the college, Dr. Dilip Bharmal, and the resource persons like Professor Dr. K. Catherson, as well as Dr. D. K. Gaikwad. I also welcome Wang Ming from Myanmar. I welcome Bamtang from Indonesia, Dr. Pradeep Sarkadam, as well as Sabir Ghosh, who are working as resource persons. They are contributing their knowledge as resource persons. I must welcome and congratulate the members of the organizing committee, Dr. Uttam Dethe, Dr. Umesh Pawar, and Dr. Nivas Desai for their efforts in the organization of this online international conference on climate change, mangroves, and sustainable management. Dear friends, you know, the mangroves are the unique ecosystems. You know, they are very specific plant formations, they are very specific plant communities which mainly occur in the subtropical and tropical regions of the world along the coast. These are the actually intertidal plant formations of tropical and subtropical regions of the world. Now they are observed within 30° north and 30° south, but sometimes few species they are found beyond 30° north and 30° south. Now these mangroves are the woody and shrubby forests. So they are occupied large area in the tropical and subtropical coastal regions of the world. So far, the estimated coverage of the mangroves globally is about 137,000 square kilometers. According to some estimates, the coverage is about 181,000 square kilometers. So this area globally is under the coverage of mangrove communities. Now these mangrove communities, as far area is concerned, the most of the area under mangroves is contributed by few countries like Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Jamaica, Australia. That means most part of the mangroves, that means about 40% of the mangroves, they are contributed by these 4 or 5 countries. Now, these mangroves are very specific because their occurrence is confined to a particular habitat, and this habitat is mainly found in the tropical and subtropical coastal regions. Now, as far as India is concerned, the mangroves, they are also found along the east as well as west coasts. Now, if we think the global contribution of the mangroves, it is very interesting that the Indo-Asian region is the major source of the mangrove species. The maximum number of the mangrove species, they are found in this region. The word mangrove is derived from the Portuguese word mangue and the Spanish word mangle and the English word group. But according to Martha Banerjee, the mangrove word is not from the Portuguese, but it is the contribution of the Senegal language. The derived word mangrove, we can trace it back up to 1630 AD. So this is very old coin, that is term coined to the mangroves by the Portuguese. Now these mangroves are the intertidal plant formations, no doubt, but they require very specific climate. They require humid and warm climate. That is very important because the mangroves will not found beyond 30 degree north and 30 degrees south because the climate in this region, beyond this region, is temperate. That means the warm and humid coastal climate is very important for the growth and existence of the mangroves. So these mangroves, they have got specific habitats. For example, if you consider the Sundarban mangroves, which is the largest mangrove forest of the world, it has got muddy delta region. That means the mangroves prefer the habitats like river deltas. It also prefers the coastal fringes. It also grows on the islands. It also grows in the estuaries. It also grows in the lagoons. The mangroves, therefore, they have got very different types of habitat, but these habitats, they are confined to the tropical and subtropical regions. India also possesses good number of mangrove forests which are located along east and west coast of India. Sundarban, Bhitarkanika, Pichavaram, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, coastal Gujarat, coastal Maharashtra, as well as Andhra Pradesh, they contribute good mangrove forests. Now, if you consider the total area under mangrove forest in India is about 4,740 square kilometers. It is about the 3.3% to that of global mangrove forests. The maximum area under mangroves in India is in Sundarbans, that is about 2,106 square kilometers. In Gujarat, it is about 1,103 square kilometers. In Andaman and Nicobar Islands, it is about 617 square kilometers. In Andhra Pradesh, it is about 367 square kilometers. Maharashtra contributes about 222 square kilometers mangrove forests, and Orissa contributes about 231 square kilometer mangrove forests. Now this amount, the total area under the mangroves in India is about 4,740 square kilometers, considering rest of the minor areas from the east and west coastal regions of the India. To face the saline conditions of the soil and water, the mangroves have also developed some different mechanism of the reproductions. So in case of members of the Rhizosphoraceae, there is the vivipary that is found during the reproduction. That means in these species of the Rhizosphoraceae, the vivipary is there, that is the seedlings, they are developed while they are on the mother plants. These seedlings, they are dropped when the conditions of the water and soil are favorable. That means the soil pH, soil salinity and the water salinity is low. That is during the monsoon, these propagules or the viviparous seedlings, they are dropped for the regeneration of the mangroves. In case of the species of Avicennia, one more type of reproduction is found, that is called the cryptovivipary. That means in this case, the seedlings, they are partially developed in the fruit. The fruits are shed when the conditions are favorable, that is non-saline conditions of the water are there, and during these conditions the fruits are shed and they germinate into the new plants. The vivipary and cryptovivipary, these two mechanisms, which are the modifications of the reproductions, they are found in the mangroves and they are developed just to resist the adverse saline conditions of the water and soil. Now we'll see the species composition of the mangroves. According to INVIS 2016, there are 31 families and 48 genera and 96 species which globally belongs to the mangroves. According to Tomlinson 2016, there are only 55 true mangrove species. That means these are the species of the mangroves which are only found in the intertidal, tropical and subtropical regions of the world. The rest of the species which found along with the mangroves, and they are also found elsewhere other than the mangrove habitats, they are called mangrove associates. The total number of the true mangrove species and mangrove associates is about 110 globally. But in case of Sundarbans, this number of the true mangrove species and its associates is about 105. Now according to Tomlinson, so the true mangrove species, they are mainly contributed by the genera like Avicennia, Rhizophora, Bruguera, Cereops, Candelia, Soleraceae, etc. Now these true mangroves, according to Tomlinson, they belong to 16 families, 20 genera, and there are about 55 species of these true mangroves. Now India contributes about 56 species, 56% species as compared to the species present globally. In case of India, the maximum species contribution is shown by the east coast, and that is mostly confined to the Sundarbans, Bhitarkanika and the Pichavaram mangroves. The west coast contributes very little number of the species. There are about 19 true species that are found along the west coast of India. So, in case of mangrove species, the true mangrove species are actually species which are only confined to the mangrove habitats. So, this is very important. Now, rest of the species which are called the associate species, they are found along with the mangrove species and also other than the mangrove habitats. Now we'll see some of the important features of the mangroves. The mangroves, they are found in wetlands or they are the shrub lands. The mangrove forests, they are also called swamps. These are these tropical and subtropical coastal swamps. Now we will see the specific characteristics of the mangrove habitats. The mangrove habitats are quite different from the land habitats because these are the actually wetlands, the muddy habitats. The soil is not firm, the soil is waterlogged. The area is under the influence of tidal currents as well as strong wind energy. It is also under the influence of brackish as well as saline water. The soil as well as water is more or less saline. The soil pH is also always more than 7.5 and the salinity of the water, sometimes it is 34 ppm. So these are the very adverse conditions in which the mangroves grow. The substratum is not firm, it is muddy, or sometimes the substratum is totally gravel or it is rocky, as in case of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And as the substratum is swamp or it is muddy, there is a deficiency of oxygen, there is no firmness in the substratum, so the stability of the plant becomes very difficult. Therefore, the mangrove species have adapted to face all these adverse conditions which are found in the mangrove habitats. Now, to face the muddy substratum, where there is lack of or where there is the scanty oxygen and where there is no firmness, the species of Rhizophora, they have developed a specific root system which is called the prop root system. So these prop roots, they firmly fix the plant in the mud, and the prop roots of different plants, they are entangled in each other, which give support to each other. Now these prop roots, they possess the lenticels. The lenticels help in the respiration and the absorption of oxygen. So this is very important adaptation of the mangrove species to face the swampy or anaerobic conditions of the habitat. There are some species of the mangroves like the species of the Avicennia and species of the Schwanrecia. They are adapted to the anaerobic conditions of the soil. So they develop the pneumatophores. These are the modified roots which come above the soil for the absorption of the oxygen. So this is the modification of the mangrove roots for the absorption of the oxygen as well as to give the support to the plants in the loose muddy soils. Now the mangroves, they are growing in very brackish water conditions, or they are growing in saline water conditions where the water salinity is more as compared to the fresh water. Therefore, they have to resist the salt present in the soil as well as in the water. Therefore, the mangroves have developed some specific characters, the physiological characters, some morphological characters in them. So the species of the mangroves like Rhizophora, Mucronata, Rhizophora apiculata, and the members of the Rhizophoriaceae, so they have got specific mechanism of absorption of the water and minerals through the roots. This mechanism is called ultrafiltration. So the Rhizophora and other allied species, they exclude the taking the Na or the salt in the roots, and this is achieved through the ultrafiltration. So these plants, they grow in the saline water conditions, but they never take the salt inside them because they prevent the entry of the salt through the mechanism of the ultrafiltration. So these plants, they are called salt excluding plants. So they do not take salt inside. But there are some species of the mangroves like the species of the Avicennia. So they take the salt inside through their root system, but they do not accumulate the salt in the plant. So this salt present in the plant, that is given out of the plant, or it is excreted out of the plant through the leaves, through the salt glands present on the leaves. In this way, these species, they avoid the salt by excreting out of their plant. Now some species, that is species of Sonrhaecia, they can take the salt, but they can accumulate the salt because, to a certain extent, because their leaves are succulent. The succulence gives the tolerance to the salt. So likewise, the mangroves have to face these saline conditions, and they overcome these saline conditions by different types of the modifications, that is through the mechanism of ultrafiltration, that is through the excretion of the salt. So the excretion of the salt is seen in some other genera like Aegiceros, the Lumnigera, etc. So this is very important thing. Therefore, the mangroves can survive under such saline conditions. Therefore, the mangroves, they are called also halophytes. But mangroves are the facultative halophytes because they are forced 114 million years ago to grow in such type of brackish water habitats, and therefore during this period they have evolved themselves to face such type of saline conditions. Mangrove forests have some characteristic features like the zonation. The mangrove species show zonation. So if you consider the mangrove community growing along the estuary as well as the mangrove community growing from mouth of the estuary to the head of the estuary, we can notice the different zonation of the different species. So the zones can be classified into three parts, that is proximal zone, middle zone and distal zone. The zone facing toward the mouth is called the proximal zone, the middle part of the estuary is called the middle zone, and the head of the estuary is called the distal zone. Now the species like Avicennia, Marina, is mostly confined to the proximal zone. The species like Rhizophora micronata, Rhizophora apiculata, Sonricea, they are confined to the middle zone, while the species like Aegisurus corniculatum, Lumnigera, Acrosticum, Candelia, these species, they are mostly confined to the distal zone. That means the zonation is very prominent when there is the intact mangrove community. You can see this zonation very clearly. If you will find the gradient from edge of the estuary up to the landward side, you will find that towards the edge of the estuary, the Avicennia marina grows. The next zone comes of the Avicennia officinalis, Rhizophora micronata, and the distal zone is comprised of the Lumnigera species, the Aegisurus species, etc. So this zonation is the characteristic feature of the mangroves. There are some also important characters of the mangroves species which are observed in different locations along the west coast of Maharashtra. It is observed that the Avicennia marina species, it requires maximum number of inundations. That is, it grows where there is the maximum number of inundations per year. We also studied the association of different mangrove species with each other. We observed that there is the good association between Avicennia marina and Rhizophora micronata. There is good association between the Avicennia marina and Avicennia officinalis. But the Avicennia officinalis is the species. We observed that it can be seen growing along with all other mangrove species. It grows along with the Avicennia marina, it grows along with the Rhizophora micronata, it grows along with the Rhizophora apiculata, it grows along with the Candelia candle, it also grows along with the Cereops dagel. It also is found to be growing along with the Acrosticum and Aegisurus corniculatum exceptionally. But we have not seen at any place the association of Avicennia marina along with the Sonricea. We have not seen the association of Avicennia officinalis with the Sonricea alba. The Sonricea alba is mostly found in the sheltered, daily inundated areas, and it forms a continuous patch of the plants. Therefore, we have not seen the Sonricea alba association with the Avicennia officinalis or Avicennia marina. On the other hand, we have seen the association of Avicennia officinalis with the Rhizophora micronata, Rhizophora apiculata, and most of the other species of the mangroves. So, but it is not the case with the Sonricea alba, because we have seen the monotypic patches of the Sonricea alba at most of the locations along the west coast of Maharashtra. We also recorded that there are the different areas which show some dominance of some important species. For example, we have seen that the Bhate estuary of the Ratnagiri district of the western Maharashtra is rich in Rhizophora apiculata. It is the dominant in Rhizophora apiculata. We have seen that the Mumra and Dharamtar creeks of the Bombay area, they are very rich in Sonricea apetala. We have also seen that the estuaries like Sakartar, estuaries like Achara, and estuaries like Kalbadevi, all these estuaries, they show the maximum plants of the Rhizophora micronata. We have recorded that the maximum number of the plants of the Candelia candle, Acrosticum aureum, They are found in the Kalabadi estuary of the Malvan. So it is very specific patch at the distal part of the Kalabadi estuary of the Malvan, where we have seen the large number of the plants of the Candelia candle and Acrostichum aureum growing together at the distal region of the Kalabadi estuary. So there are some important species like Brugueria gymnorrhiza. It is found at Now we will see why the mangroves are important. The mangrove ecosystems are very specific. The mangrove ecosystems show a detritus food chain. The large amount of mangrove litter falls on the sediments, that is decomposed, and this decomposed material starts a food chain that is called the detritus food chain, which includes the mangroves as autotrophs, their organic matter as a source of food, the zooplanktons, that is the crustacean larvae mostly, they feed as a primary consumers. Then various species of the arthropods, mollusks, they feed as secondary consumer. Then there are the species of the fish as well as birds. They work as tertiary consumers. In addition to this, the mangrove food chain consists the man also at the top, because the fish comes in the food chain and the man depends on the fish or crab, etc. So therefore the man is at the top of the food chain, which is detritus food chain of the mangrove ecosystem. It is observed that these mangrove communities and forests are very important for the growth and breeding of the different species of the fish, crabs, shrimps. It is recorded that once in lifetime, almost 700 species of the fish, they visit the mangrove habitat. That means the mangrove habitat is a rich source of food for different types of the animals, which include the crustaceans, mollusks, birds, fish, reptiles, and mammals too. So it is very important food chain that is supported by the autotrophic mangrove litter following on the sediments of the mangrove swamps. So the mangrove food chain is one of the typical food chain that is found, and that is mostly found with the mangroves. Now there are some other important characteristic features of the mangroves, because these mangrove forests, they are very important because they protect the shorelines from damaging storms, hurricanes, tsunamis, and also strong flood and tidal waves. This is very important. It is observed that during the tsunami, some of the areas nearby the Pichavaram, they were protected from the tsunami onslaught by the mangroves. So therefore, the shoreline protection is very important characteristic that is given by the mangroves to the mankind. So the mangroves also prevent the erosion of the soil. They are also responsible for the stabilizing the sediments. So because they accumulate the sediments at their roots, therefore they are responsible for the stabilization of the sediments. The mangroves are the wetlands. So therefore they come or they lie between the land and the water ecosystems. So therefore they act as buffer. So they act as a buffer because whatever the pollutants they come from the land, they are retained by the mangrove plants and they are filtered by the mangrove plants, or they are trapped in the mangrove sediments. Therefore these mangrove wetlands, they are very important in the maintaining the pollutant conditions of the water, as well as they are responsible for trapping the pollutants in their sediments. So this is very important character of the mangroves because they are the wetlands between the land and the sea. Now the mangroves, they are also very important to the humankinds because they give a good quality of timber. So the timber is durable and it is water resistant. Therefore it is used for the preparation of various the types of the furnitures. It is used for the preparation of the house, then boards, palings, and also different types of the furnitures. It is also used for the preparation of the charcoal. The tannins and the dyes, they are extracted from the different species of the mangroves. The leaves of the mangroves, by some people, they are used as a tea. So far we have seen the important aspects of the mangroves. There is one more important aspect of the mangroves, that is these mangroves, they act as a carbon sink because they absorb large amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and they help in the mitigation of the global warming. Now these mangroves, they are also under human pressure and there is tremendous threat to these mangroves. So there are some reasons due to which the mangroves are under tremendous anthropogenic pressure. Among them, the most important and widely threatening aspect of the human beings is that the mangroves are cut for the urbanization and for the development of human settlement. So this is the case with the mangroves from the urban areas of coastal Maharashtra like Mumbai, Thane, Palghar, Kalwa, Ghodbandar, Alibag, etc. So here the large number of the mangrove forests, they are exploited for the construction of the buildings, industrial buildings, as well as for the human settlement. So this is the major cause for the damage to the mangroves. In lower parts of the Maharashtra, in the districts like Raigad, Radhanagiri, Sindhudurg, the mangroves, they are overexploited only for purpose of fuel, sometimes for the purpose of timber, and also for the using as a fodder. The species of Rhizophora micronata, Rhizophora apiculata, they are used for the purpose of timber and they are cut severely from the lower parts of the Maharashtra along the coastal areas. While the Avicennia marina, Avicennia alba, as well as Sonrecia alba, these plants are cut for the fuel purpose. Actually, it is very bad to say here that these plants are cut for that is manufacturing of the illicit liquor. Now one more aspect, that is one more threat for the mangroves is that the most of the mangroves, they are cut for the construction of bunds and for construction of the prawn culture ponds. So in case of Maharashtra, the mangrove land is reclaimed for the developing agriculture land. So due to this reason, large amount of mangrove land has been destroyed by some authorities of the government as well as local residents. So these are the threats, and one more threat to the mangroves is that the pollution, the sewage pollution, the industrial pollution, as well as oil spills, they are damaging the mangroves severely. That means the urbanization, overexploitation for the fuel purpose, the construction of the bunds as well as reclamation of the mangrove forest for the agriculture and the pollution. These are the major threats to the mangroves, and those are mainly due to the anthropogenic activities. So if you stop these activities, the mangroves will sustain, they will grow luxuriantly, and they will help indirectly to the humankind. So there are several measures for the conservation of the mangroves. So mangroves can be conserved in situ as well as ex situ. In case of Maharashtra, the in situ conservation, as per our studies, we can suggest that the mangrove in situ conservation can be practiced at different localities for the different species. For example, the Achara estuary of the Sindhudurg district is a very good example for the conservation of several species of the mangroves. If we protect this estuary from the anthropogenic activities, definitely the mangroves from this estuary will be protected and they will be conserved. This is a rich mangrove vegetation here, and there is a maximum diversity of the mangrove species in the Achara estuary. The estuary like Bhate from the Ratnagiri district, it is a good example for the species like Rhizophora apiculata. So this particular zone, that is middle zone of this estuary, can be protected for the conservation of the species of Rhizophora, that is Rhizophora apiculata. Then the Achara estuary nearby the Ratnagiri, then Sakhartar estuary nearby the Ratnagiri. These are the good sources, or these are the good examples of the Rhizophora mucronata and Sonrecia alba. So these can be conserved, in situ conserved, for the protection of the mangroves. So there is one estuary in the Malwan district, that is the Kalaval estuary. At the upstream of this Kalaval estuary, there is huge population of the, that is Candelia candle, Acrostichum aureans, and this particular region at the upstream of the Kalaval estuary can be protected for the conservation of Candelia candle and Acrostichum aureum. The Vijayadurga estuary, and that is the middle part of this Vijayadurga estuary, possesses the several plants of the Brugueria gymnorrhiza, and this is very good example for the protection of the species of Brugueria, that is Brugueria gymnorrhiza. So such type of places, they can be used and they can be protected for the conservation of the mangroves. So in case of Ghodbandar, Revtala, then Bankot, Jaigad, as well as Dharamtar, Dahanu, Talasari, the upstream regions are the regions where the Sonrecia apetala grows luxuriantly. But these areas, they are under the pressure of human activities, developmental activities. But this is a very good example of the Sonrecia apetala, where they are growing luxuriantly. But if we will protect these areas, you will find that the mangroves like Sonrecia apetala, there are the very big plants, trees of these plants, those can be conserved properly if the care is taken properly, that is, if they are protected from the human activities. Likewise, we can protect mangroves in situ in different localities for the different species of the mangroves. So ex situ conservation is also practiced by the mangrove authorities of the Maharashtra, and also the efforts have taken by the Shivaji University Kolhapur Botany Department, and they have practiced for the ex situ conservation of the Avicennia marina, Avicennia officinalis, and Rhizophora mucronata, and they have got success in some extent. So it is observed that in 1993, the mangrove cover in Maharashtra was 108 square kilometers, but up to 2000, it is observed that the cover has been extended up to 180 square kilometers. That means the government of Maharashtra, the Department of Botany, Shivaji University Kolhapur, the Forest Department of Maharashtra, they are taking good efforts for the excessive conservation of the mangroves. So the mangroves should be conserved for the betterment of the human life. Thus we have seen that the mangrove ecosystems are the unique ecosystems because They grow in adverse conditions. They support the large number of the species of the animals and plants. It is observed that there are about 5,700 species of the plants and animals. They are present in the different mangrove ecosystems. The mangrove ecosystems are very important because they show some important animal life like Bengal tiger from the Sundarbans, the crocodiles from the Bhitarkanika and Picharam, then Duang, that is the sea cow from the Sundarbans, then swamp deer from the Sundarbans. There are the otters, and there are the several kinds of the species of the fish, several species of the birds. So they are found in the mangrove habitats, and these mangroves, they are the good source of the timber, they are good source of the fodder, they are good source for the for achieving the honey. So therefore, if they are properly treated, if they are properly utilized, if they are properly conserved, the mangroves will be always beneficial to the human beings. So I am thankful to the authorities of the Pancham Khemraj College as well as this organizing committee for giving this opportunity to speak few simple words about the mangroves. Thank you once again.